Remember the last time an attorney miscited a case? And did you think to yourself, what was this lawyer thinking when this case doesn't help them at all? And as you're jotting down your notes or preparing for your counter argument, you're wondering, what was this lawyer thinking? And how could this lawyer think he or she was going to get away with this? Well, it turns out there might be a little brain science to explain what happened. Hi, welcome to Front Porch Lawyer, where we explore the humanity of lawyering. I'm Francine, your host. When I first became a lawyer, misciting cases was my pet peeve. It bothered me so much that anytime I discovered a miscite, I would start with the assumption that the lawyer found one sentence in a secondary authority, in a particular secondary authority, and ran with it. And most of the time, I was right, and I would find the source of the problem. It wasn't because I was a legal wizard. It was because I discovered that this particular secondary authority had a habit of taking a sentence out of a case and citing it as the holding of the case and citing that case. Now, if you studied the authority enough, you would find that the actual holding would also be included in the secondary authority, as well as this opposite holding that wasn't even true. And I would look at the secondary authority, and usually I would find the miscited sentence verbatim from the attorney's documents or brief. Well, this just made me kind of nuts. And my husband, who's also my law partner, got the brunt of my madness. I would tell him, ranting and raving, that this attorney should be maybe disbarred for this being so awful at misciting a case. But as time passed, I continued to read in amazement how often lawyers did miscite cases, but I learned something that might explain, at least in part, what was happening, and it rested in brain science. And that's confirmation bias. You may have heard the term confirmation bias, but as lawyers, it's important for us to understand this because it can infect all of us. So confirmation bias is the brain's tendency to process information by looking for or interpreting information that's consistent with a belief system that exists already. And this biased approach to decision making is largely unintentional, and it can often result in ignoring inconsistent information. Confirmation biases impact how we gather information as well as influencing how we interpret or remember information. For example, people who support or oppose a particular issue will seek out information to support their position, and they'll also interpret, say, news stories that uphold their existing belief. And they'll remember the details to reinforce their attitudes and ignore the details that don't enforce their attitudes. So for a simple example, let's say you believe that left-handed people are more creative than right-handed people. So when you see somebody who's an artist who happens to be left-handed, that confirms your belief system. And you think, naturally, because they're left-handed. But let's say you came across an artist, a great artist, who was right-handed. Well, first you might ignore the fact that they're right-handed completely. Or you might decide that it must have been really hard for this person to become an artist because they're right-handed and that's not natural. Or you might just say, wow, it was just an exception. This is certainly not the rule because it's not natural. So let's apply this to the legal authority. So let's say you're looking for support for a position that you have, and you're probably a little uncertain about this position. You can find a suggestion in the book to support your position, and if you did, you might jump on it, like in this secondary authority I told you about. So now, most of us guard against this because we're lawyers and we're thinkers and we're always looking for it, and we've been taught to read the whole case. But if you were anxious about having to find some support for your position because that's your client's position, you might read something and then just kind of jump on it. The problem is confirmation bias is something our brains just do. That's how our brains are set up. So unless we are purposeful, active, and deliberate, we can all become victims of this confirmation bias. It's because this is how our primitive brain works. Now today, I realize that often, not always, lawyers may have succumbed to this confirmation bias when they miscite a case. So I don't get excited about it when it happens, like I did when I was first a lawyer. I certainly don't suggest that people get disbarred like I used to. But it reminds me of how easily we can be misled by that internal, ancient, primal brain if we let it have its way. So the next time you're trying really hard to find support for a position that you're uncertain about, be watchful and maybe a little forgiving of that lawyer who may have succumbed to a confirmation bias. So next time when it happens for you, listen to your brain, listen to how it's thinking, and being aware is the first step towards avoiding the pitfalls of confirmation bias. So thanks for joining me on Front Porch Lawyer today. Send me your comments and your feedback. This is Francine Tone and Front Porch Lawyer, and I'll see you next time.